So, good afternoon and welcome to the Keeper webinar this afternoon that we are holding with FieldTrust, our go-to distributor in Belgium and Luxembourg and further afield. We definitely want to welcome everyone, and joining me today is Sylvain Hennick. He's our sales engineer. So Sylvain will run you later through the end user perspective, the admin perspective, and the MSP perspective in the demo, so on the platform. So can everyone hear me? Maybe
I
you
think
can.
we can, David.
Yeah, okay,
Hello, everyone.
perfect. That's great. Thanks for joining us. So basically, we have the first statement, which is cybersecurity starts with password security. It's a very simple statement, but we find when we are dealing with customers that often, the password security, the management tool, that this is something that a lot of companies have missing in their security posture or strategy. So this is definitely one of the basics in the cybersecurity strategy that you can provide as an MSP partner. And basically, one of the issues that a lot of companies are facing, so your end customers, let's say, would be weak password security. A lot of use cases would be like not only weak passwords, but passwords being reused, for example, again and again, the same passwords. Passwords might, be on an Excel list, so that's a security issue. So there's a lot of use cases. Sometimes we have customers, we find out that they even have passwords on Post-its, stuck around the office. So our platform can really, make a huge difference to SMB customers. They can be, 2 or 3 employees or thousands of employees. It doesn't really matter. So weak password, as it states here, is a Trojan horse that can harm your enterprise. Another statistic is, for example, that 81% of breaches are due to weak password security. This has not changed during the COVID pandemic. We only see an increase of breaches, and often weak password security is one of the main issues. So this is definitely just showcasing what a basic component that a password management and security tool is, and how important it is to have this as an MSP partner. This is nothing new, what we are mentioning here. So we see that IT architecture has changed in the last 10 years and more, but especially even more so since the COVID pandemic. We can say that even more companies have adopted SaaS solutions or IaaS or PaaS. So basically, all those different applications, they all require passwords to authenticate. So there is no end of passwords being required for many solutions, and we see here that when it comes to the infrastructure within a company, you have obviously the headquarters, you might have the office there, and then you have branch offices, you have different internal users, you might have external consultants, and all of those users are using different devices, they're using different endpoints. And in the last 2 years, of course, there has been a huge shift to end users working from home. So we, with our solution, as it will become more obvious, is obviously a key component, and it really doesn't matter where the endpoint situates itself. So we see that not only passwords need to be protected, but also digital certificates, API keys, and a lot more. So this is, a bold statement. Maybe there's no good password security solution for MSPs and their SMB clients in the market today. Of course, it's a very, it's a market that's shifting every day. But we see that Keeper, has had an MSP offering now for a number of years. Two scenarios here. Weak security. So a lot of solutions, are configured for shared use and lack the proper security architecture. But we see that Keeper security from the very beginning included a zero knowledge architecture, uses multi-layered encryption, and as we can see later in the demo, it's a highly reliable infrastructure, and we're very transparent with that data regarding our reliability, that is. So weak user experience, a lot of existing MSP solutions or sorry, a lot of existing solutions are developed maybe for MSP technicians, but not their SMB customers. So that makes it difficult to commercialize an offering for password management as a service. But we will, look at, how we can make a difference there. So that leads us to the next question: where does Keeper security fit in? One statistic that is very important is 1/3 of SMB companies rely on third-party service providers or MSPs for their cybersecurity strategy. So as an MSP partner, having a portfolio of products is critical for those SMB customers. They want a holistic approach. They want to go to you as a partner, and they want to have those key components in place. And that's where password security and management tool like Keeper fits in very well. So our platform is an optimized password management as a service solution. It's the component for the MSP partners. It's easy to manage as an MSP partner, and it's very easy to use as an end user. So any admin that's logged in will also find it a very easy to use platform. We will also see that one of the key benefits to our platform is it really creates a visibility within the business, regarding password security, and that visibility. If you don't have a platform like Keeper, it's impossible to have that high level overview of where your organization stands with password security. So basically, as an MSP partner, you can really handhold your customers and also, have that service layer on top of our solution. So Keeper, best in class security. Why is this? Well, again, we see zero knowledge is something that keeps coming back more and more, and is quite a buzzword of late. And Keeper, from the get-go, has built-in zero knowledge. So it means that the end user is the one that controls the encryption and decryption of the data. We, as an organization, we have no visibility of that data. You, as an MSP partner, have no visibility of that data. An admin, for example, in that company would have no visibility of that data. It's only the end user that has control over that data, and would only have that control when it's encrypted and decrypted on the device. And how do we do that? Well, we use 256-bit AES key technology, so it's randomly generated on the device. So not only is the vault itself, and this is a key differentiator regarding Keeper, not only is the vault encrypted, but also each record is separately encrypted as well. So Keeper, highly usable for technicians and SMB employees. So we started as a mobile-first consumer-focused product with millions of registered users during the course of many years. And we then expanded to business and large enterprise. And now we have thousands of businesses using our solution globally. So we have configured a custom solution for MSPs on the Keeper platform. So there's a separate tab. You'll see that in the demo. It says managed companies. You can go into each managed company and you can manage, that, let's say, that company as agreed with the end user. So you can act as an admin for that managed company in complete isolation. Another facet is you have monthly billing with prorated purchasing mid-cycle, and you can do customized co-branding as well. We will have a look at this later in the platform. So how do we create value for MSPs? So of course, here we are together with FieldTrust, your distributor of choice, our distributor of choice within the region. But how does Keeper, create that value, and how do we do that together? So service differentiation is one aspect. As mentioned earlier, you can add extra layers of service on top. Our service combined with FieldTrust is supporting you in the background, and having that stickiness when it comes to servicing your customers, it's only going to strengthen that relationship. And when it comes to having a cyber security solution as an MSP provider, it would be seen as a key component, and it's a sticky solution that they just can't get rid of that quickly. They also have challenges around compliance. So from a compliance perspective, we can show you how, for example, Keeper can make a difference here as well as a solution, of course. So the financial rewards, the software margin, the licenses that you're selling is one aspect, but then on top of that, as mentioned, you have extra services that you can charge for, like onboarding, training, and dedicated support. So that gives you just a high-level overview of how we all can create value for the end user. So that more or less summarizes. It's a brief presentation, and I would like to hand over now to Sylvain Hennig, and he will showcase the platform in a demo environment.
Thank you, David. So I will start to share my screen there. I hope everybody can see it.
Yep.
So I promise I'll jump into the products very quickly. There are a few information I want to share just before jumping into the end user experience. After the end user experience, that will be the admin side of things. And then we'll sum up everything by talking about the MSP platform as a whole. So end user experience is one of the key important thing for you. You want that cybersecurity tool to be adopted across the organization, across your customers. So I'll be able to show you how easy it is as a user to use Keeper. There is no vertical that we are aiming for. Keeper works for every kind of companies out there. But first of all, I want to talk about security. That will be very quick, but that's really important as well. Few links I want to share with you. First one, keepersecurity.com/security. You will find a lot of interesting information over there. You'll find those tabs there. They are the pillar of the security of our solution: data protection, client encryption, network architecture, compliance and audits, and vulnerability reporting. So data protection, client encryption, David mentioned the zero knowledge model that we use across the products. On this website, you'll find a lot more information. It's a bit technical, but not too technical either. You'll see that basically we explain you how we encrypt things and how everything is encrypted and decrypted on the user's working station. Everything that we host on our platform is already encrypted, and the decryption keys always stays on the user side, and that is key. That means that if you see in the news tomorrow that Keeper has been breached, someone got access to everything we have in our data centers, every tool, backend tools that the Keeper employee has, your passwords are still safe. What we host is ciphertexts encrypted using ES256 and one different key per password. And that is the key differentiator with Keeper, and that's what we will explain you on this website there. If you want something more technical, then we have the Keeper Encryption Model documentation. We are very transparent on this. Every single feature of Keeper, we will explain you how we encrypt it, how the keys are generated, where they are stored, and how we exchange them if they need to be exchanged. Like, sharing capabilities, for example, we'll go in depth, and on the technical side, we'll explain everything there. So then we'll talk about network architecture. We are a SaaS product. We want to reassure you we'll be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And to achieve that, we host our platform on AWS. We are not specialized in data hosting. We don't have our own data center. We trust, people who knows how to do it properly and who has the right infrastructure to make sure that everything is up all the time. We'll be very transparent on this as well. We have another link that I'd like to share with you. It's statuspage.keeper.io. You can just go back in time, and since the creation of Keeper, you'll see everything that happens on our platform, quarter by quarter, data center by data center, or client by clients. And you can just go to the incident tab where everything is mixed together, and you can go quarter by quarter and see what happens. You can monitor this page, of course, and get notified as soon as something happens on the platform. Then we'll talk about compliance and audits. So Keeper is the only password manager today achieving ISO 27001. We are also SOC 2 compliant, SOC 3, FIPS 142, GDPR compliant, of course. So in Europe, your data will be hosted in AWS in Dublin with a replication in Frankfurt. So I highly advise you to have a look at all of these informations there. We are very transparent. You'll get links to our certificates straight away, and you can just dig up straight away from this website. So I mentioned that we are cloud-based. You don't really need to deploy anything on your PC, on your if you want to access your votes. Just a web browser is good enough. But then we provide tools that will make your users' life easier. On the web, for example, we have an extension that will sit in the web browser that will share the authentication with the web vote. And as soon as you browse a website that is asking for an account, like a login page, basically Keeper will automatically detect it and autofill your credentials for you. It will accompany the users in a lot of other ways, like when the user manually type a password, Keeper will be here and educate them, telling them that this password should be in the vote, it should be randomized, they shouldn't have to type it. And with one click, it will create the record for them. Well, I will be able to show you this extension and some of the use cases, how it will help your users, basically. Then we also have a desktop app. This time we'll be able to autofill passwords in thick clients, like any application on Windows, on Mac PCs. And this is not using the clipboard. So even in remote sessions, you'll be able just to pass over credentials, even if clipboard is disabled. So this is something that is quite appreciated by IT teams, but any kind of user will be able to use that as well. And then there is a mobile app, iOS, Android. And this time we just replace the autofill capabilities of your mobile phone as soon as you need to fill credentials. So we integrate with iOS and Android, and instead of using the built-in password manager of that operating system, you will see that this is Keeper suggestions coming up on any applications or on the web on your mobile. So regardless from where you log in Keeper, everything is synchronized. It's always the latest version of every credentials you may need. So now I'll switch to the end user experience. So here I just open a new Chrome session. This is Bob, my demo user. And here I'm just loading, the login page of Keeper. As a user, of course, you have multiple ways of accessing your passwords. You can just use this link there, keepersecurity.eu, for the European instance of Keeper, /vote. Otherwise, you can just use the extension that is there. You will log in the same way as you log in the web page, and the authentication is shared. You log in only one time, and the other side will be already authenticated for you. So you just pick up, where you want to log in. It will be the same thing. Here, Bob is a bit specific there, this is an account that is not using a master password. This user is basically integrated with an SSO instance. In this case, I'm using Azure SSO, but Keeper supports any SSO provider that supports SAML2. So here, because this user is placed in a scope that is integrated with SSO in the admin console that I will be show you later, when I would click next, instead of asking for my master password, I will be redirected to the SSO login page. Because I'm using Azure here, I can also log in straight away on office.com as Bob, and you will see Bob is already logged in there, and Bob can also access Keeper from the list of apps there. You can just click on the Keeper icon here, and he will land in his vault. So here we'll just click next, and if you look at the address bar there, you will see that I get redirected to login.microsoft online. It's pretty quick, there you go. And then I get redirected again into Keeper, and I'm already logged in. So this is how users will just log in every day. Then they will land in their vault, where everything has been decrypted. Each record is using another decryption key, but of course, all of that is totally transparent for the user. They will never need to think about that kind of techie stuff. We just want like a simple UI where they will manage their different records. So of course, the first time you open the vault, this vault will be empty, and the user will be prompted to import existing passwords. So Keeper has multiple tools, for the user to import the passwords. The first one is a scanner that will scan every web browsers that are already installed on the user's PC or Mac, and on Linux as well. We can do that on Linux. And what it will do is it will gather all passwords that the user saved in Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Internet Explorer, Edge, and Opera. And then the user will get one list, one consolidated list with all of those passwords. And they can exclude or include accounts they want to import in Keeper. Then you see other import tools. So the first one is a simple CSV import. You drag and drop the file, the Excel file, and you'll get all of your password imported straight away. Or you can also import from other password management solution. Like you will see KeePass, where we support KDBX file format that is encrypted. We will ask you for the KeePass password or the KeePass file to decrypt the file. And then we have tools to import from 1Password, Bitwarden, LastPass, etc. So we want the adoption to be super easy for the user. You will be able to automatically push this extension via the tools that you want to use. It could be Intune, it could be SCCM, it could be just a group policy. We will give you a lot of documentations on that, guides to basically make your life easier, and deploy Keeper as soon as possible. Then as a user, you see that it would be quite easy to start using the solution. The extension, if it is already there, it will be already opened. And then once you have your credentials, you can just browse the internet and Keeper will help you. There is one thing I want to show you is how easy it is for a user to create its own space. You see here, I already have folders and subfolders. As a user, I just need to click Create New Folder, and I can just start creating my arborescence in there. And then I'll be able just to drag and drop my record. So for example, here you see 3 records at the root level of my votes. I can just grab 2 records using the Control key on my keyboard, drag and drop, and then I can grab the last one and put it into the subfolder if I want to. And if I want to go back, of course, I can just move stuff as many times as I want. So now I will basically show you what a record is in Keeper. So you will basically have one record per account. That account can be used on multiple front ends. For example, your Microsoft account works on office.com, on live.com, on outlook.com. You'll be able, in the same records, to basically just add multiple URLs. Like that one, for example, my Microsoft accounts, you see I just added multiple URLs. So when I browse any of those websites, Keeper knows these accounts will work on that website or application as well. You'll see that with a Keeper desktop app, we can detect which account work on each application. So I will show you an example as well with Amazon there. In this record, you could just drag and drop the information you want. If you want to attach files, you could just drag and drop the file. It will be encrypted locally on your PC and the ciphertext uploaded into Keeper. So then when you log in from a new device, you'll see that you can download that file that will be again decrypted locally on this new device. Here, I'm also hosting my TOTP code, which means that instead of having to look at my phone when I want to access this Amazon account, which is shared with the entire team, instead of having to share one phone for the entire team that needs where users will need to ask each other where the phone is, you can just store that TOTP code in the record and Keeper will just autofill it for you. So here now as a user, I can just click on the launch button there. I could use the extension, search for Amazon, and click on this button that will open a new tab and automatically log me into the website. Or I can just start browsing the internet myself, and you will see that the Keeper extension is just visible on those websites. So for example, here, when I go to the Amazon login page, you will see this yellow lock icon here. And when I click on it, Keeper is basically listing me all of the accounts that matches this domain, amazon.co.uk. So you see only one matching login right now. Of course, if I search here in the vote, it will list me only one account. So that's why I don't have the choice. But of course, as an MSP, you may need to store tens of different Microsoft accounts. You'll see that you will have a search bar to search into a long list of credentials straight away from the extension there. Then you will select your record and click Fill Records. Keeper will take over, puts the email address, puts the strong complex passwords, and then it will also autofill the TOTP code for me, and I'm logged in. So that is just one use case where the extension will accompany your users. There are plenty of others. There is one that I find interesting, and I'd like to show it to you. It's when a user wants to change the password on a specific website. There, the extension will detect the website is asking for current passwords, new passwords. So the extension will just pop and say, would you like Keeper to help you change your passwords? Of course, we don't have a partnership with the Amazon website or something like that. It's just that this extension is sitting in the web browser. It can see the content of the page and it identifies patterns. Here, two different fields. One is asking for current passwords, another one asking for a new password, then it must be a password rotation page. Now the extension just moved towards the different fields. Once again, it can see the content of the page, so it knows where those fields are. And it is asking the user to click on the lock icon within the form field of the old or current password. So basically this lock icon here. I can click on the little eye, just show my current password, and that is the current password that will be autofilled there. Now that I autofilled it, Keeper generated a new one for me, and it is asking the user to click on the lock icon within every form field that is asking for the new password, basically this one and this one. I can once again display that new password. It's a new randomly generated password. I can regenerate it using the little dice here, change the complexity, whether I want some special characters, numbers, or uppercase characters. Of course, you'll see that as an administrator, you can control that, and you will be able to say in the role of your users, if that user has, let's say, a Salesforce account, an Amazon account, that account specifically needs to be at least 40 characters long with that many special characters, etc. So the user would still see this, but the user won't be able to go below what you have set in the role. So once I'm ready, I would just take that one. So I will autofill that password that starts with M and then close a bracket there. I autofilled it. The extension allows me to compare the two passwords. I am able to save it now. It is saved in the vote. All of my colleagues got that new version. All of my Keeper devices got that new version. It's really instant with Keeper. And now when I save on the website updated my account with this new password. You see that it was successful on Amazon, but some websites will not like a password that is too long or password that contains special characters. That's why Keeper asks you for a confirmation there. Was this change successful on the website? I can close this. I can click yes. my account in Keeper is already updated, the record is updated, but if it failed, I could still click on no revert change, and that will restore the older version of my password. So now when I go back to my vote, you see that this is a new password that has been updated in the vote directly. I can click on the information button there at the top. You see this is version 288. It has been modified today at 1:30 p.m., which I'm based in Ireland, so 1 hour behind you, and it has been modified by me. The last activity was changed passwords. I haven't changed the added notes or added more information. It's only a password rotation. That's why we specify it here. And then I have access to the full history. If you use Keeper for 10 years, you have 10 years of versioning on all of your passwords, and you can just go back in time on any of them. There is no restriction on that. So for example, I can go back to last year, May, that was version 22. I can display that password, copy it just by clicking on it, or I can also restore the entire record. And when I do this, it will basically create a new version, which is 288, and I can go back to 287 whenever I want. And this time it will be 289. There you go. So when I will show you the admin console, you'll see that using Keeper, you'll be able to keep track on every single action that a user did in the vote, and that an administrator did in the admin console. Of course, we are zero knowledge, zero trust. It's not because you are an administrator then you should see the user's password. You will not see what the user actually had in the vote, but you will know that this user looked at record unique ID this, and that the user changed the password, for example. You will not get the title, you will not get anything sensitive, because it's not because you're an admin that you should know that the CEO of the company has a bank account in this specific bank, for example. So of course you will not see any title, only unique IDs. And then if you are allowed to see this secret, you will be able just to go into your vote and search for the unique ID. When you click on it as an admin, people will know in the logs that you also looked at the record. So we keep track of everything that way. So you see some of the stuff there are shared folders. We want basically to allow users to share data securely from Keeper, and like in a very easy way. So you have two ways to do that. You can do record per record. You just do a right click, share, and you select the colleague that you want to share with. So for example, here I will select Carol, and I will be able to provide permissions to Carol. Can she edit? Can she reshare this record? Can she do both? Or I can also transfer the ownership. And in this case, I will just withdraw myself from the share, and only Carol will see this record in her vote. It will be the exact same thing as her creating that record. And this is quite handy when, as an admin, you create an account for someone else, in any application. Instead of sharing that password in Teams, in Slack, you would just send the record into the user's votes. The user can access the account. They can change the password whenever they want using the Keeper tools. And they have this record, only them have this record. The other method is using shared folders, and that will be the most common ways of sharing stuff. Simply because in an enterprise, model, what you will want to do when you onboard a new customer is that you will create the structure of those shared folders, and you will just leverage the onboarding and offboarding process of that customer. What I mean by that is when you use shared folders, you can just provide permissions to a team this time, and this team can be provisioned, can be synchronized based on a group in your Active Directory, in Azure AD, in Google Workspace, in Okta, in Jump Cloud, basically in the identity provider stack that the customer is already using. So what you will do then is just create the different shared folders. You can leave them empty and let the users then import their stuff in that structure. Add the correct teams to the right shared folders, provide them with the right permission, and as soon as a user is added to this group in Azure AD, for example, that user is automatically invited to join Keeper. And when that user opens the votes, they already see the shared structure that is shared with their team, and they already have the permissions to do what they have to do to start working as soon as possible. So yeah, you'll see when I show you the different integration, that's something that is highly appreciated by the different companies where we deploy Keeper. So based on what David explained at the beginning of this webinar, the main reason why you needed a password manager in the first place was to make sure users basically manage their passwords properly. You don't want to have a user within your organization that is basically leaving all the windows open. And that's how you will be able to take control again. So here, from the vote itself, every user will have their own self-assessments on how they manage their passwords. That score is calculated based on password complexity, but also based on best practices. Do they reuse the same password everywhere? Or do they use random, complex, and unique passwords per account that you provide them? Of course, as an admin, you will not see all of these details. You will not know that the Photoshop account on adobe.com for that Bob user is weak, but you will know that Bob has 5 weak passwords in his vote, and that is using the same password on 5 accounts. The whole plan with that is now you'll be able to schedule training with end users and make sure that they start using managing passwords properly and in a secure manner. And of course, with the Keeper tools, they will save sometimes as well. They don't need to remember a unique password. They will just let Keeper do everything. They just need to open the vote and Keeper takes over. So now I will jump to the admin side of things. So here I went to keepersecurity.eu once again, but this time /console, and I logged in as an administrator. First thing you get is a dashboard. In here, you'll get your top events, what's happening in your Keeper tenant right now, then the security audits dashboard, where you will basically get the average score of all of your users in your organization. And I say in your organization because you will see that with the Msp console, you will have your own company in your Msp console, which is your internal employees. And you will also have a new tab for external employees, for your customers. And in this tab, you will see one line per tenant with a button to manage that specific customer. And then this customer will have its own console as well, where you could provide them access if they wanted to. But you as an Msp, you always have access to those consoles and you'll be able to change different roles, run reports, and basically assist your customers that way. I'll be showing that in a few minutes. Here, I just want to specify that every report that you run, they are for the current tenants that you selected. It could be one of your customers, but it could be also yours. Then if you want to get the details of those security scores, then you need to use View Audits button. Keeper goes a bit further with Breach Watch, because instead of looking only at password complexity, we make sure that every password your users are using on their accounts have not leaked on the dark web already. This is a big differentiator at Keeper because we do it in a zero-knowledge way. Most of the password managers today, they would basically leverage an external API, like Have I Been Bound or something like that, which means they share your users' data with someone else, and that's critical. With Keeper, if you look at our encryption model, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to explain you how it works while maintaining the zero knowledge. But if you are technical, when you go to the encryption model, you'd see all of the details of Breach Watch right there with nice schematics. And yeah, we go in depth into this. So once again, here you get this View Report button, and those two buttons brings you to the two tabs there, Security Audit and Breach Watch. Security Audit, you get the full report, one line per user. Which user has weak password, basically medium, strong password? Do they reuse their password? And do they use a 2FA method to secure their vote in Keeper? You will see that when you use an SSO integration, like I did with Bob, you can have MFA on the SSO side in Azure, for example, and you can also enforce it in Keeper if you wanted to. Otherwise, it will be optional. If the user wants to do that in Keeper, they can just go to the settings of their vote, security, two-factor authentication, and they see the method that you allow them to use in their role. So the role part, I will be able to show you that as well. You will see that's where we configure the user experience, basically, and how we restrict things to your users. So this dashboard, you'll be able to export it and basically isolate users who need more training, and that's how you make sure you don't have like a weak links in your environment that could generate a breach in the future. So then you will also find the reporting and alert tabs. In there, you'll be able to create your own reports, and those reports are based on the Keeper events. Keeper has more than 130 different types of events. They are categorized there. They will be covering any user action and any admin action. So then you can just use a search bar if you don't want to explore all of those there to find the event that you are looking for. For example, when a user just opened the records, the simple action of clicking on a record from the vote is generating an event, and you could see who accessed the specific records. Even if they do not display the password yet, because that's another event. When you click on this little eye, and if you click on the password to copy it in your clipboard, that's another event. If you autofill it with any Keeper client, mobile, desktop app, or web extension, that will be other events as well. So the whole plan there is there is no limitation in the way we keep logs in Keeper. You have your history since you started to use Keeper. You use Keeper for 10 years, you will know the 10 last years, who accessed what, from where, and what they changed, basically. So here we'll just run this report without any filters. You will also see that you can filter per specific records. You can filter per specific shared folder and investigate on specific accounts, basically. Here we'll only filter on Bob. I want to show you that every single action I've been doing since the beginning of that demo has been logged there. So for example, when I just clicked on different records, that the events that were generated. I was using the web app, the web vote, and I opened few records there. Once again, you get only the unique ID in there. So even if you're an admin, you will not know that, yeah, the CEO of the company has a specific account and specific website. If you want to have access to this, the user needs to share it with you. You see that I was also restoring previous version of a records. That's my Amazon records there. I was using the web app. If I scroll down, you see what I did from the browser extension. So I autofilled the passwords. And I also updated the record unique ID. I basically changed the password there, and that's the events you get in here. Those events, you'll be able to use them to create alerts. So when you create an alert, it's using the same filter mechanism. You could just say, I want to get an alert when someone accessed the Amazon account. I want to know it's a critical account. And you will decide what type of alert you get. So it can be an email, it can be an SMS, but it can also be a notification in Teams, in Slack, or any other application that supports webhooks. The whole plan there, and this is a feature that companies love, is that the entire IT team in the Slack channel will receive the notification and they can comment on it straight away in the Slack channel. They could just say, okay, I'm on it, I checked that alert, it was nothing, or I fixed it, etc. And finally, you can export all of those events real time to your SIEM solution. So there you go. If you are leveraging Azure Sentinel, for example, you'll be able just to set it up via the Azure Sentinel LPI straight away from the admin console. If the SIEM solution is not listed, then you get syslog push over TLS, which means we can feed any SIEM solution on the market today. And if this is an on-prem solution, then we will provide you with a tool that you can deploy on-prem that will do some pull. So instead of opening the firewall for inbound traffic, letting the Keeper platform talk to your SIEM, you would just deploy that tiny tool locally on your network that will use port 443 HTTPS to grab those events and locally feed your SIEM. Everything I've been showing so far, that's only reporting. Most of the configuration Keeper will be happening in the admin console, in the admin tab, I mean. So In there, you will notice that Innkeeper will leverage what we call a node structure. This is this column there. You can see those nodes like OUs in Active Directory. They would help you to create a structure in your organization. And then you'll be able to create a new admin role that allows member of the role to access the admin console, but to only see the branch where you provided permissions. So you can segregate the admin roles that way in the tenant. For example, here I have a branch of my organization in the US, for example, with some customer service in Boston, in Chicago, I would have some other services there. I can create a new role, local admin US, and in the administrative permissions of the role, I specifically added this node only, and this is the permission I provided. They can manage the nodes, the subnodes, of course, the users, the roles. Because I point to a node structure, that user there, Alain, cannot see anything else in the organization. He will not be able to know that there are other nodes in the structure and that there is a root level, for example. As soon as he opens the console, he lands in US, and for him, this is a root level. So then you will see that every time you go into a subnode, you'll get new users, roles, teams, 2FA, and provisioning methods. And that's how we can integrate with multiple sources. You just create a new node and plug it with the source you want. For example, here in my demo environments, I need to be able to demonstrate with customers that are using Azure. So I have two different tenants there, AD on-prem, Okta, Ping Identity, Google Workspace, one login. Every time I go to one of those nodes, you will see I have other users, and I also have other provisioning methods. So here at the root level, there is none. But then when I go to Okta, you see two methods, SAML2 for the authentication and Scheme for the automatic provisioning from Okta. If I go to the Azure node, that's the exact same connectors that we use. We leverage the standards of the industry, which allows us to be compatible with everybody, basically. So here with Azure, if I show the user list, you will find Bob, my demo user. And if you remember properly, when I entered the email address of Bob, the Keeper logging page automatically routed Bob to the logging page of Microsoft. And that is because of the location of Bob's account in Keeper. It is in the node which has a SAML2 connector. That's why Bob does not have a master password. Now, if I display the SAML2 connector configuration, you will see that it points to login.microsoft online, and that's why Bob got redirected to login.microsoft online. Then the second connector here, Scheme, it will basically allow Azure, in this case, to invite all of those users. I did not need to invite them myself. I could, of course, invite people manually. I click on Add User, I enter the email address, or I use a CSV file to invite them in bulk. What I wanted to do is just to leverage the onboarding and offboarding process of that customer that is already creating a new user account when someone joins the company and block or delete that user account when someone leaves the company. That's why Scheme is that powerful. We leverage their existing processes. When Keeper is set properly, they don't need to think about it. Everything will be automated. So here, those users, they are basically created and locked by Azure automatically. And those teams here, if you remember the teams that what we use in the shared folders, they are Azure Active Directory groups that I specifically ask Azure to synchronize with Keeper. As soon as you add someone in that group in Azure, that user will be automatically added to the team. Then you see the roles in there. And there is in Keeper, you see teams and roles. They are totally different. Teams are only for sharing, while roles are allowing you to set restrictions on user accounts. For example, here, I created a default role for my user. I enable this feature there. Every time a new user will be created in this node structure by Scheme or by myself, that user will always end up with this role. And then when you click on enforcement policies, that's where you enforce things on the accounts. I will not show show all of them, that's a lot of config there. I just give you a few examples. For example, do you enforce 2FA? That's where you would do it. Requires the use of two-factor authentication. Under sharing and uploading, you don't want the users to share with external people. That's the flag you would enable there. You don't want the users to be able to export their vote into a CSV file, a JSON file. You just enable this, and the export feature is totally not visible, to the user. They won't be able to do that. You can make Keeper only available from the company network. So you would whitelist public IPs of the company network. If the user tries to log in from home, they'll get a message, Keeper is not available from their location. Account transfer there, that's something that is quite important in Keeper. Once enabled on the user role, you would select a population of admins that will be able to transfer the content of a vote of a user who left the company into the person who replaced that person, or into an admin vote. And then you'll be able to redispatch the different permissions, the different records. So we have this account transfer feature while maintaining zero knowledge. Once again, that's something we are challenged a lot on, and we are super transparent on it. We'll explain you how that encryption is working and how it can be shared in a secure manner in this technical documentation there, encryption model. So now I'll just log out from this admin console. I want to show you the Msp environment. You'll see that basically everything I've been showing, that is exactly the same thing in the Msp tenant. Excuse me there. Except that there is an extra tab in the Msp tenants. So here as an Msp, I log in as an admin. I can administrate my own tenants via the admin tab. That's where I will have my colleagues, people that are using Keeper internally. And then you have the Manage Company tab. And that's where you will create one company per customer. You would assign licenses to them. So here I will just create a new Manage Company, give it a name. I will place that company into a node structure. That way, if one of my colleagues who is managing customers should only see specific customers, they will only see the customers you assign to the specific node. So we leverage that node structure as well to segregate who can manage which customer internally in the Msp console as well. Then you will select the plan. So for you, it will be Keeper Enterprise Plus, which includes every single feature of Keeper. So you don't need to think about what the customer will want. You will just leverage that plan into your Msp console, and you decide how many users, how many licenses you want to assign to that customer. Then you will see the number of allocated licenses and the number of active licenses. A license is active in Keeper when the user has been invited, and you would see the account is actually active when the user logged in for the first time. So that's what you will see there as well. And then when you click on Launch, it will open a new tab for you, and that will be the full administration console of that customer specifically. We really wanted to keep everything distinct and isolated. That way, when you run a report, you know that this is this specific customer. Those environments are using encryption keys that are totally different. It is entirely isolated on our platform, and it will be for you as well. You have this Msp console that aggregates everything together, but then you could definitely decide that one of your customer needs an administrator and you want to give them access to the Keeper console. You would just create the user account in this tenant and assign that user to a Keeper administrator role. That way they can access the console, they have the same level of permissions as you, but of course you have that overview and you can guide them when they deploy Keeper. There you go. So I think I covered what I wanted to cover there in this demonstration. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chats, and we'll do our best to answer them. Okay, so I get the first question there. Okay, so if I understand right, a keeper is a central vault within the company where users have access to the password if they have been granted access to that group of sites. So in Keeper, every user will have their own votes. When you go to the admin tab there, every single line there, which is a user, this is a vote that only the user can decrypt. You as an admin, you cannot decrypt that vote. Then from the user's votes, you'll be able to create a shared structure. So that will be going through shared folder. So instead of having like an account, a vote that multiple users will need to access, everybody only owns one vote. And from this vote, you see the shared structure. If as a user, you decide that you want to move that shared structure into another branch of your votes, you could just create a new folder there, which is like a private folder that you own, and decide to move the shared data into it. So then when you want to access, those shared stuff, they are in the branch that you created specifically. Did I answer your question there? Okay, cool. So then there is another question. Can you describe the difference between the licenses? Okay. So in the Keeper platform.
Yeah, sorry, Sylvain, if I can interrupt, that is covered by BART. So basically, everything is in the Keeper Enterprise license that FieldTrust would, offer to their MSP partners. If that's correct.
Right.
Do we have any other technical questions or support questions? I see someone is typing. Christophe is coming back with a question.
Let me cover that. Can you hear me now?
Yep, perfect.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So Christophe, there are no NF4 licenses available, but we have a special price for internal licenses. So actually your internal licenses are cheaper than the ones you're going to sell to your customers. But I'll come back to you with that after the webinar. Any other questions there? Actually, Christophe, business keeper licenses are, how should I say it, integrated in the Keeper Enterprise. But you will see on our pricing level, you'll actually get everything from Keeper Enterprise at a lower price than you would buy business. So you don't have to differentiate between the type of licenses.
So any other technical questions? I mean, for pricing, definitely, obviously reach out to FieldTrust, and they will explain everything regarding the license, what's included. Basically, everything is included in that license. But we have Sylvain here, who is happy to discuss any technical questions around the platform. Okay, so I see that we are ending the hour, let's say, because Christophe is just typing there. So just give it a minute or two. Okay, one question. Yep, no problem. So we certainly appreciate everyone joining us. So we have a question. Is it possible to share a password without displaying the password?
That's right, it is. You'll see in Keeper that you have multiple ways to do that. I will quickly answer this question there from the vote. You can do it when sharing stuff. For example, here, this marketing team, if I go to the user tab, you see I'm sharing with a team that is restricted access team. So if I log in as one of the users that is part of this team, you will see that this user can see the marketing shared folder, but the user cannot display or copy the password. He needs to use the Keeper extension to access the account. So I'm just logging into this other user here, open the votes via the extension. So we call this feature in Keeper privacy screen. So now as a user, when I go to the marketing folder, I'm logged in as Chris. If Chris tries to look at the Amazon account, you see privacy screen is enabled. I cannot copy that password, I cannot display it. But if I go to amazon.co.uk, the extension will just autofill it for me without having the possibility to display that password. I will just go in. Does that answer your question? You'll see, Christoph, that if you have other use cases with privacy screen, we have other ways to enabling it. What we see is most of the time doing it through the sharing is just easier, but you'll see that you can also do that in the role of your users or in the template of records of your users. So yeah, few ways to do that.
Yeah, and that's a great question because external consultants, that's a typical use case whereby consultants have to access maybe certain applications, but you don't want them to obviously know the details around the password. So thank you. Any other questions? Where can you white label the solution? Yeah. So basically,
sorry. So you mean customizing the customer votes and admin consoles, etc., right? And reports. Okay, so that is happening from the admin console of Keeper. So if you want to customize the logos of a specific company, of course, you will go to that specific company. It will open that new tab. That would be the test company 2 admin console there. And what you can do is from the configuration tab here, you can customize a company logo that will be displayed in every end user's votes. So here, instead of having this Keeper logo, they will have the company logo. And you can also customize the email invitations if you want to, instead of having, let's say, a built-in message from Keeper, they will get a message from the company that explicitly explain that they choose Keeper, and you can choose your own wording there. For reporting, there is no logo on them. When we do an export, that will be an Excel file, or that will be a JSON file, or a PDF as well, but we don't display the logo on it. So that may be not really relevant on this. Thank you.
Okay, great questions. Any final questions or? So certainly, we want you to reach out to FieldTrust and we will be supporting them in the background. And I want to thank everyone for attending this session, and thank you, Sylvain, for the demos, great demos, and thanks FieldTrust for having us. Thanks, Bart. So
thanks a lot, David and Sylvain, for your time. We'll be following up on our resellers. Als er iemand nog vragen heeft na deze webinar, jullie weten mij te vinden. So, thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Tot ziens.